where we will highlight, we will edify, we will share the leadership lessons and growth strategies of some of the brightest engineering and manufacturing minds that you may not know, may not be familiar with yet, but you really should get to know. My name is Sean Bartley. I am the founder of Crown Technical Staffing, a specialized engineering and manufacturing search firm here based in Atlanta, Georgia. We partner with small to mid-sized integrators, manufacturers, design teams, helping them really recruit, retain, and really strengthen their leadership bench, alongside the technical talent and frontline engineers that are being used to help and grow and develop those teams. Today, we have a guest, an illustrious guest. I won't edify too crazy here. Patrick Hill, the Vice President of Business Development and Marketing Strategy for IDEX Mott Corporation. Um, I first spoke to Patrick when he was the CTO of Mott Corporation, and when those two companies merged, his influence has now expanded to really helping align 25 companies under the IDEX umbrella around market growth and customer needs. I have Patrick share a little bit more, right, about himself and his journey in a little while. But if you've ever seen or witnessed an episode from the Unseen Impact, you know it is important before we get started. I want to be intentional with our time, and I hope that you'll walk away really with four or really three different things during this conversation, right? Number one, the practical playbook that Patrick has used to create focus inside scattered engineering and ops related teams, seeking out those big opportunities rather than just allowing the teams to remain spread too thin across low impact work, right? That's the number one thing. Second thing I'd like for you to take away is the leadership shift, right? Required to stop solving every single personal problem, and instead really build the structure, right? The structure, the delegation, the internal bench strength that allows that organization to scale. Third thing I'd like for us all to kind of walk away with, where is AI in all of this? Where is AI already delivering meaningful leverage in engineering environments, from accelerating R&D discovery, to improving product selection, right? That's a big part of it. And where human judgment is still decisive, still remains decisive. And it'll be a success to walk away with those three things, among other things that, Patrick will share. Our guest today, Mr. Patrick Hill, as I mentioned, I'll let him give us some more context, give us and share just his 90-second or so introduction, who he is, what he does, and just an interesting little known fact about yourself. Patrick, are you ready for us?
I'm ready. Thanks for having me,
Let's do it.
Sean. And it's
Let's do it. The floor is yours.
it's great to talk to you again. So a little bit about me. You outlined the work that I do professionally quite well. I lead growth in new business and market development across the IDEX Health and Science Technologies platform. It's a relatively new role. Prior to that, I was the CTO of Mott. Prior to that, I ran business units and engineering groups at Mott. And so really been in the highly technical customized solutions field my entire career. Prior to Mott, I was in commercial nuclear power, which is, of course, a very technical, highly regulated, highly engineered field as well. I'm a lifelong engineer and tinkerer. I've been a tinkerer since I was very little. I knew I wanted to be an engineer, fairly early on in life. And so that's who I am as a person. I will always be involved in this kind of space of really adapting and solving and innovating solutions to solve either customer problems, world problems, and sometimes problems of my own around the house or whatever it may be. Maybe a couple facts about me outside of work. I love to build cars. That's how I get my hands on kind of engineering and mechanical outlet in life, because I don't necessarily do that on a day-to-day basis at work anymore. So that's my number one hobby. And then a complete polar opposite to that, my second hobby is I love to read. And so I like the calm, solo aspect of just getting involved in a story and kind of letting my mind wander to where the author wants to take me. So
Nice.
looking forward to our talk today, but that's a little bit about me.
Absolutely. And an engineering thespian. I like it. I like it, Patrick. Very cool.
Something like
So you've
that.
gone. So we've gone, or you've gone actually in your career, right? From nuclear accident analysis, right, at Westinghouse to CTO, at a company like Mott, right? Building the space, filters for spacecrafts and rocket fuel and semiconductors. Just looking back, right? What were the 2 to 3 pivotal moments that moved you from being the engineer, the guy, to being the person really responsible for the entire technical direction of the company?
I'll share two that were deliberate choices I made, and one that's a little
Mhm.
bit of luck, because sometimes you do need luck in your career too. So
Yeah,
it's important to acknowledge that.
yeah,
So, one choice I made in Westinghouse in 2015 or 16, I volunteered for an expat assignment abroad in Europe, to lead a big portion of a project there. Taught me a lot about how to work with people in different cultures. Taught me a lot on how to work across teams, in matrixed organizations. It was experience I would not have gotten staying home. I think it also accelerated my professional maturity, just being in a different place and learning a new way of doing business. And so I think that was really pivotal. If I were to give advice to myself earlier in my career, I would have wanted to sign up for more of those opportunities earlier, and they are there. It's up to the individual to grasp and advocate for them. So I think that's one pivotal choice I made. The second pivotal choice I made was to join Mott. Mott, at the time I joined in 2017, a small company, 100% employee owned, fast and agile, on a high growth trajectory. And when I was looking to change the direction of my career, I was specifically looking for a fast and nimble place to work, which is
mhm,
what attracted me so much to join Mott. And I think it was really pivotal to join and then be a part of that fast growth environment. Taught me a lot about how business operates, not just how engineering and engineering teams operate. And then the third one is luck. And that is, I was lucky to join the right company at the right time and have the right boss and mentor who advocated for me, who gave me growth opportunities, who trusted me to go outside my comfort zone and learn and grow. And that doesn't necessarily happen everywhere. The individual, of course, needs to advocate, but I joined at the perfect union of right time in the organization and having the right mentor to help advance my career. And I think those three things really resulted in the accelerator, to the type of work that's done today.
yeah. And when did you realize, right, that you were just more energized by leading people and technology than solving, let's say, a design problem, right? Was there a specific project or role at Mott where that all kind of clicked for you?
It's that's a funny one. If you ask my mother that question, she would tell you, if you were to call her now, she would say that that happened in preschool because apparently, and I don't remember this, but
Right, right, right.
apparently my nickname in preschool was the governor because I would get the kids lined up to go play outside or some crazy thing like
Okay.
that. But that's what she'll say. For
Okay.
me, Sean, I think this is college and early professional career
Hmm.
time. So, call it in my early 20s. I get my most energized feeling by
Hmm.
working in a group and seeing the group accomplish a goal, especially being a part of a group that accomplishes a goal that they did not think was possible.
Hmm.
And that's really what fuels my career. It has to be in a technical setting. It has to be a challenging engineering problem,
Hmm.
just to be interesting to my particular way of thinking and how my mind works.
Hmm.
But I get most of my energy through the group interaction and helping people see that they can do something they didn't think was possible. And so I saw that working in teams early on in my career. But I knew that in order to be a good engineering leader, I first had to be a good engineer. I needed to earn my stripes and understand and fail and learn from those failings. And only then can I really kind of develop the backbone to coach and develop.
So now, talking to the governor of kindergarten, right? Is this would be the apropos next question, right? When you're looking at that multi-site operation, what are the first 3 to 5, let's say, signals that you're looking at to gauge cultural health, to gauge that leadership strength in those organizations? What does that look like?
I'd like to be more narrow on this question. I hope it's okay.
Okay.
I'm going
Yeah,
to give
please.
one cultural signal and I'm going to
Mhm.
give one leadership signal because I think both of these are so important. We could go through a list, but I think these
Yeah,
two things, from my perspective, are really
yeah.
important. Cultural signal when looking across sites, especially
Mhm.
internationally. How is communication occurring between the
Mhm.
teams?
Mhm.
If communication is occurring only in emails, my blood pressure starts to go up.
Right.
And so one of the most important things that my mentor at Mott taught me was showing up when it matters and being
Mhm.
in person and alongside each other when it matters. Now, it's not practical to travel across the world for
Right.
every meeting and be
Right.
in person all the time. But there's a big difference in communication and relationship building when it happens first in person, Second, over video, like you and I talking right now.
Hmm.
Third, in a more or less formal way of communicating, whether it's Teams messages or so on. And then emails at the very end of that.
Hmm.
Because email, in my opinion, can be misinterpreted. Intent is not clearly understood. Collaboration is not clearly understood. And so when
Right.
I see teams only communicating in email, and I'm sure some of my either current or former employees will listen to this and they'll laugh, I will say, pick up the phone. Just
Right.
stop the emails and pick up the phone. So if I see that, that's not a good sign. I like to see communication happening on video, on phone, and in person as much as is practical for the
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
And then, on leadership effectiveness cross sites, one thing I look for is what is escalated. What is escalated,
Mhm.
and what solutions are brought in place. So,
Mhm.
what is escalated to the leader at the particular site or department, or what is escalated to me if it's something that comes to me,
Mhm.
and our solutions brought with that escalation, and it tells me a lot about what's happening within the specific departments.
Mhm.
Each of my direct reports, we work through a couple tools. We work through a tool, and forgive me, I did not invent these tools. Somebody did, and
Right.
I can't
Right.
properly cite them right now. But a tool called the Zone of Genius, where it's the concept of
Mhm.
every individual is the best in the world at something,
Right.
and they're great in their region at something else. And that tailors down, and then they become competent on some things, and then eventually incompetent. And I
Mhm.
want to make sure that my leaders are working in their zone of genius and excellence as best as is possible.
Mhm.
And the second tool we work through is a very clear communication escalation plan. And so if you were to ask my employees, if I'm away on a trip or away on vacation or something,
Mhm.
what needs to be escalated in what time frame, they will be able to tell that. Of course, safety issues need to be escalated right away within an hour, no excuses.
Sure.
And then depending on the magnitude and the severity of other topics, the time frame is different, or maybe they don't need to be escalated at all and they can be solved at a local level. And so I look for those two things. How communication occurs
Mhm.
is a great sign of how the culture and how the teams are working together, good and
Mhm.
bad, but it's a
Mhm.
sign and you can do something about the sign. And then leadership, how escalation is occurring, how delegation is occurring, how decisions are being made. Are they being made at the right level,
Mhm.
with the right level of urgency?
And as you're speaking about just leadership, that's just in my conversations with other, C-suite executives, other teams. One of the biggest constraints right now that I'm hearing is leadership depth. The bench just isn't really there, right? Like, how do you personally identify and develop that next generation of plant managers, ops leaders inside your businesses?
Yeah, I don't think there's no magic recipe to this.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think there's many levers to make sure. And I think the most important thing that I realized, and I've just realized this recently in my
Hmm.
career,
Hmm.
certainly not something I had vision to even 3 years ago or two
Hmm.
years ago,
Hmm.
but succession planning never stops.
Yeah.
You always need to be thinking about how your organization is going to grow. The cliche I use with my teams is our jobs are to make our teams better tomorrow than they are today. And
Hmm.
so you constantly need to be focused on how do you raise the bar with the team you have? How do you find new skills that your organization may need? And then who are your future leaders and what skills and tools do they need in order to develop? So I think that's like the philosophy, the core philosophy.
Hmm. Hmm.
Succession planning never stops. Even if you think you have the right successor, you just never know. Things can
Yeah.
change. Their career may take a different turn. Maybe
Yeah.
they want to do something else. Maybe yours takes a different turn. So it never stops.
Hmm.
And then, how to make it happen from there. I think, relative to most folks, I'm rather informal on this. I have regular one on ones with my employees. We talk specifically about how they want to develop their career. I tailor my coaching and mentorship to what they are looking for and what they want to achieve. It's my job, of course, to make sure that they develop as best as is possible within my company. But above and beyond that, it's my job to make sure they just develop and
Right.
that they find a way to continue to raise their ceiling and do things that they didn't think they could previously do. And so we do that informally in one-on-ones. I'm a big fan of doing one-on-ones not in the office if it's possible. Today is a nice day outside. A
Hmm.
one-on-one, having a walk and talking about what's going on in your business and how your teams are doing, is I find it a more effective environment. Maybe it's over coffee or lunch. If we have to do it in the office, we do, but I prefer to get out and be in a different place, and it helps the mind also enter a different mindset as well.
For sure. Sounds like the Apple Steve Jobs example, right? Takes supposedly he took all the meetings, walking and having conversations.
Very
Uh,
similar.
you're right. I want to make sure we're picking up, or at least the audience and those who are listening live with us, or those who will listen to this as a recording, picking up what Patrick is putting down, so to speak. And if anything has resonated, if the information that is being shared is something you can surely certainly take away and bring into your own personal career journey or your own business, put an emoji in the chat box now. I give you 2 seconds to do that, right? Because I feel engagement is important, and being a part of a live conversation is important too. So put what you're getting from this, put what you're learning in the chat box, put an emoji up if it resonates with you, because I certainly would love to go back and see it and see what we're getting from the conversation. Um, but before we even go on, right, I do have just a few more questions for Patrick. Namely, when you are, this is more of just your strategic insights and just your operational ideology, like what you're thinking about as you're building the teams. So when you're restructuring that engineering department, you and I had a conversation and we talked about it, certain circumstances. To position those teams in a variety of just growth markets, right? They were spending their time in areas that didn't matter very much, and you put them into just better areas for them to grow. You increase the responsibilities, the opportunities for those engineers. Were there the design principles that you used, and just what impact did that have on engagement and innovation at that time?
Yeah, I think so. So to recap, what we're discussing here is, we had some portions of the business that were growing very quickly, but were understaffed and needed help. And then we had other portions of the business where we were staffed, appropriately, or maybe could pivot and be more flexible in how we're using our engineering resources. And so, the way I thought about that was, well, first, what are the baseline skills that the organization has
Mhm,
across the engineering team, and what are the skills that these particular growth markets need? And where is there overlap? Meaning, where do I have skills in the team today that this business needs, but they're not deployed to the business? Because you can't just move folks to a different market or application and expect success without mapping, are they the right people? Do they have the right foundational knowledge?
mhm,
Are they able to come in and hit the ground running, or do they need training? And both options are okay, but it just changes the timeline of how you would think about, kind of accelerating the capacity in that particular area. So it started with a skill match. And then I looked for opportunities where we had really amazing talent that was ready to do more. And that's the most fun part of any engineering leader, any people leader's job, is the opportunity to help folks find a way to have more influence. And in this particular case, very fortunate, incredibly deep technical team with a ton of experience that we could leverage. And so by doing this move, we were also able to create advanced career opportunities for a number of folks to take on additional responsibilities and ultimately help grow the business better. But it all started with that skill match. We have
mhm.
the right skills for what the particular market or product or application needs. And then, in this case, we did. And so, how do we accelerate the movement of those skills?
And I've seen you talk on, or at least lend your voice, right, to webinars and articles, and you are a person who speaks highly of AI, right? Just what that looks like within engineering and manufacturing teams. You've talked about AI making engineers 10 times more efficient, right? If we followed one of your engineers on your team right now through a typical day, where would we actually see that 10x show up? What are they doing differently compared to 2 years ago? And what's your vision, right? What's your vision for where this is going over the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I think so 3 to 5 years with AI is
Tough. That's a
an
toughie.
eternity. It's an eternity. I mean, how about 3 to 5 months, maybe even three
This
to
is
five
true.
weeks at the rate
This is
things are
true.
going, right? Which is really exciting. I think this is
Yeah.
one of the most exciting times, in the
Mhm,
last 100 years or so, as far as
mhm,
technical evolution and how it's changing the world, which is
mhm,
really, really cool.
mhm,
Where is AI manifesting? So, well, actually, let me just talk about a principle on why the 10x faster thing. If it's not that disruptive
mhm.
and it's just an iterative improvement, I think you should always stop and question. Iterative improvements are nice, especially in an operations setting. But if you really wanted to pivot your R&D team or do work a different way, you have to find that disruptive breakthrough. And so that's that 10x number. Can you be 10 times better?
Sure.
Anyone can clearly see doing something 10 times faster is disruptive and not
Hmm.
iterative. So that's
Hmm.
just, a little bit of philosophy on where that comes from.
Hmm.
Where is it manifesting today? So there's a range of ways where AI manifests in the engineering space today, from things very simple all the way to pretty darn advanced stuff. So on the
Hmm.
simple side, I'll give you, one example. AI to prevent writer's block is something that I've seen be a pretty powerful but very simple
Hmm.
tool.
Hmm.
Engineers, by and large, aren't naturally the best writers. We are highly technical math and science people.
Hmm.
That's, not throwing any shade broadly. I'm sure there are
Right.
great technical writers. I'm not one of them, but sometimes
Hmm.
you can have real writer's block when you're trying to craft a message, whether it's to a customer or to a vendor, or even talking internally and cross-functionally about a product or a product development. And I think a simple AI query can really help break that writer's block and get you back to talking the talk faster. So that's a very simple way where I've seen it be used. To go to the other end of the spectrum, where it's quite useful, is getting a deeper understanding of customer applications. When you work in a business where you are solving problems across quite literally every major end market, across the globe, a variety of customers, big and small, high tech, largely high tech brands.
Hmm.
The closer you can get to understanding the customer's process and what they do,
Hmm.
the stronger of a technical recommendation you can make for your particular product or service.
Hmm.
And so, at least for me, AI has been an amazing accelerator in that respect, to truly, clearly understand without having to, ask the customer 21 questions about
Sure. Sure.
their process. You can be learning in real time as you're having that conversation, and
Uh-huh.
ChatGPT or Copilot or pick your AI tool of choice can
Hmm.
be educating you on what that application is and how it works. I mean, it really helps the engineer be significantly more well-rounded, and they don't need to rely on their own process knowledge. I mean, the beauty of AI, and I'm sure you've heard this plenty of times, is
Sure.
you have the world's knowledge at your fingertips
Yeah.
in a matter of seconds. And so use it while you're talking, use it while you're
Yeah.
engaging. So there's a range of ways where AI is used. There's a bunch of stuff in between, of course, product selection, drawing review comparisons, contract comparisons,
Hmm.
countless tools that you can use just to be more efficient. But
Hmm.
I think on the high end, getting that deeper customer specific understanding is pretty powerful.
And if that's something you're using across the 25 companies you're managing or overseeing, that can break a few barriers. That can certainly 10x, the results.
For sure.
For those who are in the live chat, listening to the conversation right now, you will find Patrick's information, his email address, his LinkedIn chat, so you can start the conversation. Is that the best way to keep in touch with you, Patrick?
Absolutely. LinkedIn would
Awesome.
be great.
Awesome.
Fairly active, so please reach out if you want to talk more.
Certainly. And my calendar is also in the chat if you'd like to schedule time to chat, if you'd like to have a conversation on your recruiting needs in particular, or if in fact you're looking for new opportunities, or you'd like to be a guest, right? Future guest for the Unseen Impact. I welcome those conversations, right? Just wanted to highlight that before we kicked off into just more of the mentorship and the legacy of what's happening with Patrick and his team. If I were to fast forward, right? Just 5 years, just on the same wavelength of AI. What's one AI related idea, right? That's making or at least happening now that you think is obvious or would be obvious in hindsight, and one that feels like a real leap of faith that you're working on today?
I think so. Obvious ones are anything that can get you incremental process improvement by
Mhm.
leveraging the power of an artificial agent or a coworker agent. So
Mhm.
drawing reviews, basic calculations, reliance on key engineering principles and formulas, so you don't have to remember them all.
Mhm.
Um, Contracts. These are all no-brainers, and I think
Sure.
the quicker you can pivot that way, the better, so that the live coworker can really make sure that their mind is focused on the customer's need
Mhm.
and not necessarily the rest of the ancillaries on doing business. So that's
Mhm.
obvious. A
Mhm.
leap of faith, product selection. Theoretically, a company-specific AI agent that has not only the world's knowledge but the company's specific product knowledge can select and recommend products across markets.
Mm,
And I think it's pretty efficient to do so.
mhm,
What I wonder, and what might be a leap of faith there, is how important is the human element in that kind of connection and building trust and building technical effectiveness in the solution.
mhm.
And so that's one where, could you theoretically do it? Yes, absolutely. But I think it requires a little more thought.
Yeah, yeah. In our webinar series, right, called the unseen impact, and I named it specifically for a reason because I often see the best leaders, they're influencing in ways that just aren't immediately visible, right? Often unseen. What's an example of an unseen impact you've had on your team or organization that you are particularly proud of?
I really enjoy skip level mentorships and skip
Mm,
level one-on-ones. And so by that, I mean meeting with and coaching employees of my employees.
mm,
And
mm,
that, you need to make sure you're well aligned to the direct supervisor there. You don't ever want to be doing that, off in a corner.
mhm,
But I really enjoy those sessions because you get to have a different kind of conversation,
mhm,
a different kind of coaching experience, and
mhm,
then you're not necessarily tied to that particular department all day, and so you get to see the results manifest in pockets,
mhm,
over a more extended duration. And I've always found that really rewarding. Not always, I haven't been doing it too long, but I
mhm,
found that really rewarding to have those skip level relationships and see talent across the organization really flourish and grow in ways that weren't previously possible.
mhm, mhm. And I know we've been talking quite a bit about just more rosier times, right? The advancing of AI and what to be on the lookout for, but not everyone listening and hearing us right now, hearing the conversation, is in an organization that is flourishing, right? So for the founders, the plant managers, the, leaders that are listening who are struggling with growth, complexity, and just even talent constraints, right? What's one piece of business strategy advice you'd wish every founder or manager would pay closer attention to? What does that look like?
Well, I think that's a really good question.
Mhm,
I think one piece of advice I would pick for that is your
mhm,
strategy itself. What is it?
mhm.
Can you articulate it? If you are the founder, the plant manager, every department should have a strategy. Every
Sure.
company should certainly have a strategy. The
Mhm.
department's strategy, in theory, should align to the company's strategy. If it doesn't, that's a problem, right?
Right. Hmm.
And so, what is your strategy? Can you articulate it clearly? Is it
Hmm.
clear to you what you're saying yes to in your strategy and what you're saying no to? Because if
Hmm.
it's not clear to you, it definitely won't be clear to your employees. And then the next question after that is, okay, if it is clear to you and it exists and it's compelling and it's a compelling choice that you're making to grow or run your business, is it clear to your employees? Most cases, that's where we as leaders can improve,
Hmm.
making sure the full organization understands what role they play to achieve that overall strategic vision, because that's how you keep folks aligned and moving together. And then maybe the third bit building on the strategy is, are you evaluating if it should change regularly? Again, my mentor at Mott and the best professional coach I've ever had
Hmm.
always taught me that strategy never survives contact with reality. It
Hmm.
will always need adjustment,
Hmm.
always. And
Hmm.
so, do you have a mechanism to make sure you're evaluating and adjusting? And you're not just tied to that piece of paper or
Hmm.
PowerPoint presentation or pick
Hmm.
your format.
Hmm.
You have to be willing to change it and you have to be willing to see the signs to change it. So, those three things. Do you have a strategy? Is it clear to you?
Yeah.
Is it clear to your employees and do you communicate it with them regularly? And then do you have a mechanism to make sure that you're evaluating that it needs to change?
Yeah. I like the analogy of strategy colliding with reality. It Things are going to be disruptive, right?
That's right.
It's
That's
going to
right.
happen. And you're leading large organizations at this time right now, Pat. And just out of all the responsibilities, all the problems that land on your desk, right? What are the problems that genuinely energize you, that give you that, fuel to keep going?
Customer specific problems are always the most
Mhm,
fun.
mhm,
And the ones I like most about that are when a customer calls asking if we can help with a problem that they haven't been able to solve anywhere
mhm,
else.
mhm.
That's always the most energizing to get in there and solve the unsolvable.
Hmm.
And so that's, yeah, quite simply, that's where I get my most
That's
energy.
that's the one. Okay. Is there a particular story or insight you might be able to share on that one, or is it's more so the 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 problem
The problem.
that is
It's the
most interesting?
problem, Sean. It's the
Okay. Right.
again, the engineer will never get out of me.
Gotcha. Okay.
I always like to solve the problem, right?
Mhm. Okay.
And so just hearing, hey, we have this particular challenge. Maybe it's a filtration challenge.
Hmm.
Maybe it's something else. Here's what we've tried so far. We have no idea what to do. Can you help
Hmm.
us? And
Hmm.
being able to peel back that onion and find out what's going on.
Yeah.
Not every time we're in a position to help, or I'm in a position to help, or our
Hmm.
company's in a position to help. That's
Hmm.
okay. We can be transparent about that and talk about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But the chances where we can help, yeah, certainly the most
That's golden.
rewarding part of the job.
That's fair. That's fair. So what should we be watching, right? For those that are going to go on LinkedIn and maybe DM you or, shoot you over a message, what should we be watching from you? Just with your leadership, with your team, or just
Yeah.
yourself personally? What does that look like?
Yeah, I love what I do. I love
Mhm.
what I do. So you're going to see me in the same field doing the same thing at the same place. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it. So look forward to reaching out to folks. Really look forward to solving more problems across key industries that quite literally change our lives and improve our lives. And so as long as I'm working in that space, that's where you'll find me. That's for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. You heard it here. You heard it here first, everybody. Patrick Hill, sharing wisdom, sharing insights. And I hope that we were able to pick up those three things in the beginning that I shared as being good takeaways for this conversation. Um, we are at our tail end right now, and I appreciate the time, Patrick, that you've taken just to share with us. And be on the lookout for more episodes of The Unseen Impact. The next one's coming up on May 12th. You will see it starting to flood the internet very, very soon. I'm really excited about the next conversation and future, guests that we're having. But really, Patrick, I am eager to see where the insights and what you've shared so far, where it goes in terms of how the listeners take it and maybe implement it within their career or within their organizations. And hopefully some reach back out and kind of share what that looks like for them now that they've heard it from you. So Patrick, I appreciate the time. And for all those listening, thank you for paying attention to what we're building here. And we're excited to keep going.
Thanks, Sean. Had a ton of fun.
Appreciate you. You as well. You take care. Bye bye.
Bye.